of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristero. Chapter 27. Blessings. The rest of Sunday had sped by in blur. Moshi Moshi, you've reached Habara Realty. This is Kozuki Maya speaking. How may I help you? Together, the teenagers, children, and Ingo, alongside Mitsuki, had tucked into stacks of pancakes within the cool, comfortable air of the cafe at 7:30 when, to their shared surprise, Denki, Eijiro, and Katsuki arrived thanks to the blonde's father, the surprisingly timid man's relieved arms having pulled him into a hug whilst his wife cooed over them and joined in. The boys, similarly, were fawning all over Hitoshi and Izuku. He had moved their group to the study area with further servings after the newly arrived Tots had squeezed his legs and told him to never do something stupid like that again unless we're there to protect you, Shouta-san! Hey, kids! Good morning, Kazuki-san. I'm not sure if you'll remember me, but my name is Aizawa Shouta, and I've recently purchased Unit 174 in the eastern quarter of Yoindam district here in Mizudafu. Ochako and Tsuyu had texted their joy at knowing that he was safe and had asked to come by, even though the self-defense lesson had been cancelled, to check in with him and their iris-haired friend. And, of course, he'd consented. God, when similar messages of relief and promises to drop by came from their parents, he finally felt that the worry of his study group dissolving had been, thankfully, misplaced. Kirishima-san, the tiger mom that she was, had told him under no uncertain terms that she and her son would always be his customers, and pleasantly, all of the other parents had offered him such kind, reassuring words too. Tsuyu's toad-featured father has gone as far to say that he'd happily strangle any villain that wanted to threaten the cafe and the people in it as well. He was lucky to be surrounded by such good people, wasn't he? Oh, yes, Aizawa-san, we were all quite surprised during that sale. By 9 o'clock, the Norineko was bursting with people who, as bewildering and thoughtful as it was, had brought food for him, his ward, and their teenage friends. All of them had begged him to take some time off. Well, he did have a lot to do on Monday, and after talking it over with Hitoshi, Ingo, and Mitsuki, he decided that the iris-haired child could have the full week off from school so that they could get him settled into his new, albeit temporary, home. And so, with a helpless shrug, he'd agreed to it. But just for a day or two, though. He couldn't help but feel, as illogical as it was, guilty for not being able to feasibly see to the 6-year-old's immediate needs alongside serving the community. Dobby had, loving, he thought, smacked him across the head with a tea towel for fretting about the whole thing. Such a good kid! Yes, well, I was hoping to place an offer on Unit 175 and the apartment above it. Tomura had left around 9:30.
If you were serious about me staying over sometime, I may as well get some stuff together, hadn't I?
And had asked to come back over that afternoon. He'd hugged Toshi lightly and told him that they could have a sleepover, so moving in would be fun instead of scary. Damn! The smile on the child's face had melted him, and with the living area of their current apartment the way it was, he and Dobby were going to drag the futons in there for them to do just that. The older teen was also going to help him move the Shinso's possessions from their former living space into the cafe that afternoon. What Hitoshi didn't need or want for the time being would be carefully packed into the storage area he had at the back of his eatery, alongside everything of Kimiko's too. For when she got out of prison, Lieutenant Sugarame had left him a voicemail. They could visit her tomorrow at the precinct, and a trial date was being set for the following Friday. He wanted the woman to have access to everything she'd had to ensure that both of them would have a solid foundation to build their new, better lives together with. Oh no, Aizawa-san, it just so happens that the current owner of that premises had a feeling that you might. Then, at 10 o'clock, right on cue, he'd not been keeping tabs on the time. The place was still pretty crowded when came by with Sir Night-Eye and a person only an inch or two taller than the Tots, but a fully grown man by the name of Nezu. He'd seemed friendly enough, and had, whilst the symbol of peace and his most famous supporter had happily signed autographs, been more than happy to chat with the children whilst drinking 3 cups of a specialty tea he stocked with a pleased, almost manic laugh. Sure, Goldtip's Imperial wasn't something that many cafes stocked, but it was one he'd come across thanks to his high school's food tech teacher, and he enjoyed it from time to time, and had baked with it once or twice. It couldn't compete with coffee to his mind, but the mouse, dog, bear, man was overjoyed to swill it down. Oh. Then the community, realizing that the #1 pro was simply a customer to him, they'd bowed, hugged, and departed with promises that they'd return when he was open again, wished him and Nobby well, and told All Might and his fellows to keep up the good work, we love you, on their way. Once it was just the study group, the parents, and the men who'd been so pivotal in helping him the night before. He'd presented the orders and watched a little bewilderedly as the blonde's eyes had widened comically at the pies, his smile becoming wobbly. "Shotgun," he breathed, his hands a little shaky when he'd taken the boxes. The big lug had insisted that he share the faux key lime pie with a fresh round of coffee amongst the adults, whilst he'd gifted a cupcake. "Rabbits? How did you know they were my favorite?" Your hairstyle reminded me of them, that's all." They're the merrily munching children. The same children who had loved having their photographs taken with the heroes and their incredibly well-spoken white-furred associate, who had been delighted with the study space. He was a teacher, apparently, and had offered him a selection of books and other useful supplies for his shelves and bookcase. "Yes, would it be possible, Aizawa-san, for you to please meet me at the unit at about 1500 today?" Then he and his regular customers, his friends, wishing the blonde a happy birthday and seeing them all drive off. 11 o'clock had come about, which saw the other kids and their guardians similarly leaving, so that he, Hitoshi, and Bobby could meet with the landlady Kimiko had just managed to pay off before, well, everything had kicked off. She'd been nice enough, if a little gossipy, let them in and told him not to worry about that month's payment. She'd find someone else to take the place soon enough, and she wasn't above sympathy, thank God. Sadly, there hadn't been a great deal for them to take. They'd packed up Kimiko's clothes, family photographs, and the wedding rings she and her husband had worn, alongside Hitoshi's All Might poster, a stuffed bear, a gift from his father, and his personal effects. The landlady had insisted that her son, "He's a strapping lad, and very fond of those delightful cakes you make, Aizawa-san. He brings one home to share with me every Thursday, don't you know?" would bring the futons and bedding over for them. The furniture, however, belonged to the apartment. He'd tried to slip her 5,000 yen for the All Might nightlight, and she'd laughed, unplugged it, and given it him with a huff. "Let the boy keep it. I don't think they make this model anymore anyway," before she'd seen them out and given Hitoshi a friendly pat on the head. "Certainly," he replied, his brows lifting a fraction. "I'll see you then." Which it meant by 1300, all of them still stuffed after their morning of treat eating, he'd watched Dobby scoop the child up, his giggle was wonderful to hear, and walk him to the gaming area so that he could start filling in the paperwork. Thank God you could do most things online these days, and call the ruthless. As he ended the call, however, he couldn't help the light frown tugging his lips. What if the current owner didn't want to sell to him? Could the old flower shop have belonged to Boss Sama or one of his associates? Shit! There was nothing he could do if that was the case. You couldn't legally force anyone to take or consider offers, and although he had every faith that he could get a mortgage on the place, he didn't have the capital to go above the asking price. He supposed he could look into making their current apartment a duplex, but with his current square footage, a true cat cafe just wasn't viable, and to get planning permission to build into the apartment complex's courtyard wouldn't be easy either. Even just applying for permission would be pricey. Damn. He'd not told the boys about his concerns. He'd completed all of Hitoshi's paperwork and made a list of numbers he'd need to call tomorrow from the school, who'd need to be informed in the first instance. He and social services had already emailed the principal, to his doctors, dentist, and quirk registry office, and made himself a few coffees. Then, as 1500 flashed up on his phone, he took a breath, told the children that he was just heading next door to have a look around and meet the agent. He'd asked them to stay where they were, with the excuse that the old shop hadn't been safety checked. and walked out of the Noroneko with a hum. He'd played over a few eventualities in his mind and decided that the most logical approach to the situation was best. He'd meet with the realtor, be polite, cast a critical eye over the former florists, and hope for the best. In the worst-case scenario, Hitoshi could have his room and he'd sleep in their living room. He didn't exactly get many hours' worth of shut-eye anyway, so it's not as though it'd be detrimental to his health, really. He'd work something out. You could do this. He'd come too far to... Konnichiwa, Aizawa-san. Blinking out of his reprieve, he'd rounded the cafe and waved at the boys who'd waved back at him through the last of the bay windows. Shouta could see whom he presumed to be Kozuki-san, her slight frame and warm demeanor an excellent disguise for the bloodthirsty world she worked in. "Good afternoon," he replied with a polite bow when she returned. "Thank you for arranging this meeting today." He furthered, his eyes clocking the unit's portfolio held in her dainty hands while she smiled at him in a way that seemed... "Now let's go inside, shall we?"
Strained?
Nodding, he watched as she pushed the unlocked door open. Shit. Had it been broken into and vandalized? The photographs on their website hadn't shown any damage. And stepped inside. Swiftly following, he was quite surprised to see that the interior had been stripped. He'd not seen anyone going in and out of the place, although he supposed he didn't exactly leave the cafe on weekdays or evenings, did he? Down to its four walls. A blank canvas. I won't bore you with the square footage or other such details, as they are, of course, just the same as that adorable cafe of yours. She veritably chirped. I must confess that my colleagues and I thought that your enterprise may have been ill-advised, but you've just gone ahead and proved us wrong now, haven't you? She tittered. I should imagine that your wife is simply thrilled. Taking in the area, his mind's eye imagining the toilet block of his eatery removed and rehoused. Yes, having two sets of toilets, one on either side of the cat enclosure, so the felines could always see people and be appreciated, but ensuring everyone with allergies didn't need to enter the glass box he'd thought up. Shouta hummed. I'm not married, he replied absent-mindedly, his imagination seeing another two booths by the windows, two more sets of tables and chairs, another study table with, maybe later on, some computers for the more disadvantaged people of the area to use. What? Why, how in the world a catch like you has managed to stay off the market is quite a mystery. He heard her prattle on, whilst he saw the kids all happily playing with the cats he was going to give the best life he could to. With the additional square footage, he'd need to hire someone else, wouldn't he? Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't get your hopes up. Focus on something else. Well, I'm too busy to think about committing myself to someone right now. He shrugged lightly, because it was true, and besides, he'd never seen what a romantic relationship looked like, so he was pretty sure he'd be unable to form one. Therefore, why bother looking for anything like that? Such things were illogical. Before, with a blink, Kozuki-san, is that... Ah, yes, the current owner has recently added it. You've got good eyes. Walking over to the back wall, he felt his eyebrows raise when he was met with a premium-grade extractor fan. The exact kind of equipment health and safety advisors rated highly when it came to eateries which housed live animals. The HEPA filter was brand new and would eradicate most allergens. Now why would a person whom owned a flower shop that hadn't been open for the past 3 years install such a thing? Shit, was someone else looking to open this unit as a florist once more? Now, if you'll follow me, please, the woman, still brightly smiling, called whilst approaching the door that, in his own home, led to his industrial kitchen. When he looked around, what he'd initially seen as a flower storage facility, he could see that, like the largest area of the other building, it had been stripped back. Curiously, the back wall was lined with wide, sturdy shelves, ideal for holding cat crates, and cupboards covered the rest. Did they look new as well? Damn everything, he'd have no chance of buying this place now. It had so much potential to become a viable space for all kinds of businesses. Shit! Let's go upstairs to view the apartment, shall we? Nodding. He should just thank her for her time, go home, and start finding ways to bring Pan B to life, shouldn't he? Shouta walked up a familiar set of stairs, his hands running along a strangely dust-free banister as he reached the top, turned, and walked into the living area. Surprise! A living area where Mimi-chan and the girls were standing, a "Welcome home" banner strung up over them. What? Blinking. His eyes were tearing up, weren't they? The realtor stood to one side, her hands snapping photos on a disposable camera as the 5 women rushed in. The hug he was in the middle of bewilderedly returned.
Oh, Shouta-kun, what do you think, ne?
Looking to Mimi-chan, her kindly face filled with warmth and a few tears besides, the cafe owner found that he couldn't really talk. What was happening?
Oh, careful, Ran-chan, get him a seat, would you, dearie?
Finding himself sat, he further found that he couldn't look away from her as she ran a warm motherly hand over his jawline.
Ma, so you like it,
I'm not quite sure what's... He tried, his gaze looking around the living room that had relatively new furniture. A couch, 2 chairs in it, and a family-sized kotetsu table, sans a thick warm blanket since it was summertime, that featured a beautiful vase of flowers before he looked back to her.
Why, Shouta-kun, this whole place used to be mine,
Mimi-chan chuckled, her friends laughing behind their hands beside her. They were tearful too.
And I want you to have it.
She smiled, her aged hands grabbing his.
And I want you to fulfill your dream of having a true cat cafe for all of us to live and enjoy.
She was giving him the units? No, that was... He couldn't possibly...
Shouta-kun,
she breathed, her violet eyes swirling with pleasure.
would you do me the great honor of taking this old wreck and breathing life into it again?
But, he tried, that's you.
What did I tell you, ladies? She chortled. I have no need of your money, young man. I have an excellent pension, and this place was just sitting here, unloved and rotting like so many of us.
She mused, her friends nodding.
And then in you blew like a summer storm to blast our cobwebs away and make this area worth living in again.
She smiled.
I'm much too old to return to my craft, and with my children all living overseas, I was at a loss. The girls and I, there was nowhere for us to go outside of the busy high street.
She huffed.
I cannot tell you what an oasis the Noroneko is for us.
She furthered before with a grin.
You will accept this gift of mine and give us lots of kitty cats to spoil, now won't you?